That is why they voted Brexit. 44% said it was because they wanted to show their dissatisfaction with the UK government. So they are a protest vote. 1/3 of those who voted for the Brexit Party did it because they thought they had the best policy. For the rest, a protest vote. If you have one policy, just one policy, that's all they've got, wouldn't you hope that 100% of the votes would be for that one policy, for a no-deal Brexit? So maybe not even their own voters entirely agree with them on this. Maybe their own voters, some of them want to see a deal. But almost 60% of Lib Dem voters said they voted that way because of the policy on Brexit. The Lib Dems are more fanatical Remainers than Brexiters are Leavers, it seems. In fact, the poll shows only 2/3 of Brexit Party voters believe the best outcome would be to leave the EU without a deal. 90% of the Lib Dems, as you'd imagine, want to remain. I'm not sure what the other 10% are thinking. But only 2/3 of those who voted for the Brexit Party believe the best outcome is to leave without a deal. 1/3, obviously, of Brexit voters think that there needs to be a deal sorted out. So the glamour stat in all of this for the Leave Brigade is the net number of people in this survey who want to leave the EU is 50%. Those wanting to remain is 46%. So it's close, but we are still seeing people in favour of leaving. We should point out, of course, that this is just a sample of people who voted in the EU elections. And we know that basically 1/3 of the population voted, so 2/3 didn't. So it's not telling us the way they're thinking. But if this is representative of the entire population, then we are seeing a widening gap of people who want to leave. In fact, of those who voted to remain in the 2016 referendum, 15% of them now want to leave the EU, whereas the other way round, of those who voted to leave back then, only 7% want to remain now. So on that basis, you'd have to assume that if there was another election now, then we would see people have shifted, and if it was a close thing last time, it'll be a less close thing this time, and Leave would win again. The tide of opinion has shifted to leaving the EU. The problem is only 27% want to leave without a deal. 27%. So if we leave without a deal, if that's what happens, that's a travesty of democracy, because it's not what the majority of people want. It's only what 27% want, including a whole chunk of people who voted Brexit, who don't want to leave without a deal. By the way, only 8% wanted to leave with a deal that was negotiated by Theresa May. So perhaps that could be chucked out of in the dustbin and forgotten about forever. And the changeover from the a Remain majority to a Leave majority, the age of it is 55. For those aged 25 to 34, only 1/3 of them want to leave the EU in any way, but 60% of those aged over 65 want to. They would basically want to leave and enjoy it in the few twilight years they've got left. And to show how much the tide of opinion is changing in UK politics, when asked the question, which party do you think you're most likely to vote for at the next election? Because it's looking likely that we could face another election. The highest for any party is Labour, 21%. The Tories and Brexit Party were both on 18%, and the Lib Dems on 17%, just behind the Tories and the Brexit Party. The Greens on 7%, and Change UK on 4%. It's so close, isn't it, that if Change UK merged with the Lib Dems and won all those votes, if people who voted Lib Dems and the UK Party were happy to vote for this new combined entity, then what would they be? They'd be they'd be on 22%. So they'd win the election. They'd do better than Labour. So there's something to concentrate the minds of Jeremy Corbyn and whoever gets to lead the Tory party. Who'd want that job? So there we are. And on the other bit of news from yesterday, the chucking out of Alistair Campbell out of the Labour Party because he voted for the Lib Dems in the EU election. I think they've realised now, a day later, that was the error of their ways. But if we look at the numbers in this Lord Ashcroft survey, only 1/3 of Labour voters in the last general election voted Labour at the EU election. So if they followed through with that ruling, they'd have to get rid of 2/3 of their party, which given they only got 13.6% of the vote in the EU election, is something you wouldn't want to rush into, isn't it? And that's Balls Radio for today. Leave doesn't mean leave. Most people who want to leave want a deal. If we leave without a deal, then that is a travesty of democracy, because only a little more than a quarter of the population want that. That from a survey that Nigel Farage is widely quoting as providing a support for his position on Brexit. And we all know what that is. Leave without a deal. Have a look at the survey. Read it again, Nigel. And that's Balls Radio for today.
Balls Radio, the UK. From a Brexit Britain to the world.